Alright guys, welcome back. So, after playing Avowed recently, I played it for about, 4 hours? It's been interesting because this is one of those games that is definitely woke, but it's interesting what's going on now with a lot of these games, and it got me thinking after playing Avowed. So first and foremost, let's just round off the bases. Alright, so your pronouns in the game, woke. Women in the roles of men, woke. Women who are soldiers, women who are out there fighting and being captains of military roles, woke. We have a lot of layers of wokeness here, and of course writing women as if they're men. And understand something, this used to be irregular, this used to not be normal. But this is what ESG, which was paid by the American government, thank God. ESG, Diageo, Garm, Sweet Baby Inc., all these ESG conglomerate companies that just all work together doing effectively the same thing, just in different industries and in different companies who have different specialties, whatever. Who cares? It's all ESG. So this is all propaganda that was paid for by the American taxpayer. And see, understand something. It used to be weird to have women in the roles of men in our media. Then it became increasingly normalized, especially after, during the midterm, the midterm of Obama's second term. So after we got past Obama's second term, we started to see ESG ramp up the wokeness in all of our media and our products. So now we're at a point today where, this mother effing guy, man, I have so much to say about this game. I'm just going to say this right now about Avowed. Boring. Everyone basically has the charisma of a plank of wood. And I mean a dead plank of wood. Dry. It cannot even incinerate. There's no living life inside of this plank of wood. It might as well be ash at this point. So anyways, that's this game. And no one has any charisma, really no actual personality. This mother effer on screen here, this mother effing piece of trash, he has no freaking personality. That woman has crappy breasts, not attractive. What the frick are we doing here, man? I can't beat off to this. I mean, this is what we get now for our games. We get unattractive women everywhere. The chick in this game that you just saw, she has a man jaw. What the frick are we doing? She talks like a man, acts like a man, and this is a part of ESG, is place ruffian male archetypes onto women. Well, I would love to see women with ruffian archetypes. I would love to see them actually fight a man, because we all know what would happen to them. They would be delivered to Pound Town, and I mean to the face, coupled with to the freaking vajayjay. Yes, forcible copulation. That's what would happen. But here we are stomaching these feminist fantasies, and yes, this game is a feminist fantasy. That is what this game is, in many ways. But anyways, and apparently we have a queen in the backstory of this world, of the gods, and whatever the frick. Who cares? Generic fantasy. Every game like Immortals of Aveum. And this is the larger conversation that we're having here with this game. You have games like Immortals of Aveum, like Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, like, what's the other freaking piece of trash game that came out? Dragon Age, The Veilguard, sure, we can throw that at it, but, what's another one? Frick, I'm forgetting the name of a recent, Forspoken, that's another example, but there's another one on the top of my head. I was using this example recently, and I forget it now, mostly because I'm recording, so I'm gonna go end myself real quick, BRB. Now I'm back. So after ending myself real quick, we're here. Yeah, man. So there's all these woke games are dime a dozen. Their backstory and their worlds, dime a dozen. You've seen these characters before. You've been these places before. Everything that we're doing, everything that you're seeing, we've been here before. This is nothing new. So this is the thing about this game. It is heavily redundant. This industry right now, the gaming industry, is just doing the same crap over and over and over again. Honestly, I'm just sick and tired of it, personally. This game does interesting things. There's so many things to mention. I guess I'll say this too. We have gotten to a point where the bar is so low that right now people are saying that Avowed is a good game. Now, when I picked up and played Avowed, I wasn't exactly bored, but I wasn't even impressed. I was, as some people have been saying recently with pretty much everything coming out these days, I was whelmed. It was just, okay. Understand. And apparently I've been hearing this recently, but I'm just gonna say it right now. I came up with this first. I don't really care about being first, but I'm gonna be first. Cause screw you, that freaking vagina's mine. That virgin bride's mine, biatch. Anyways, so, here's the thing. A lot of people are saying this, and I was like thinking about this game, and I just came down to it. I was like, holy freaking crap. This game is Skyrim. This game is Skyrim. This is Skyrim if Skyrim was boring woke. That's what this game is. Just make Skyrim a little bit more ESG, a little bit more feminist, throw some pronouns into Skyrim. That's this game. That is literally what this game is. And, this is Skyrim with less content. Oh, look, we got a great axe and a great sword, which basically are the same weapon, just they look different. We've got a sword and a shield. Oh, wow, that's new. We got a bow. Okay, wow, that's new. Now, there's no physics to the bow, but who cares? Am I right, sisters? We got a wand, which that's nothing new either. Let's just face it. Basically, Hogwarts Legacy brought into this game, I guess. I don't know. Not really, but also kind of. So, and this game has less spells from the get-go than Skyrim. So, this game, understand that the gaming industry, the bar has been set so low that a game like this, people are jerking off to their, their dog because, they're bestiality freaks because they're leftists. Everyone's jerking off to this game, being like, wow, what a big deal. Oh, and this is me reading through one of the notes in the game for the lore, and I was going through, this is basically an r/atheism moment in a game where it's like, oh, this culture is existing outside of having a belief in God, and they never had a faith in a God, and yet they're making beautiful pots. The pots, they look fine. I mean, is it super impressive? Am I gonna beat off to the pot? No, I'm not beating off to this. Jessica Alba, call me. I'm beating off to that. What's up? But anyways, the pots are not that beautiful, but I mean, I guess they're okay to look at. They're decent, and they actually look somewhat unique. But anyways, it's just, this is a whole atheism thing where it's like, we don't need a God to determine our ethics and our morality in the world, which is absolute nonsense. Any society without a God is, effectively speaking, it is always savage and barbaric. And by the way, high education, universities, and higher learning came from the Christian/Catholic, same thing effectively, but anyways, Protestant/Catholic Christian churches, okay, in European territories. That's where they first sprouted up from. And right now, we have this whole narrative, this propaganda that's being taught that higher thinking and higher learning comes from the atheists, apparently, even though atheism gives to you a highly actual, immoral society that has no direction. If you want to be a retard, be an atheist, by the way, because also if you follow atheism to its logical conclusion, it is nihilism. You just have to be a retard to believe that it isn't nihilism. But if you have any mind on yourself, you understand that atheism ultimately leads to that end road, nihilism, and then at that point, literally end yourself. Just freaking do it. But there's a reason why generations of people persisted on. And again, there's a reason why societies, which I don't believe this. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, maybe these people are just chimp people and they just recently evolved out of their chimp state. I don't know. I don't care. Anyways, okay, let's just believe for a second that there are societies that don't believe in a God, even though pretty much any civilization does believe in a God. Whatever idea they have, there's always an idea of the spirit. It doesn't matter where you're at. So, but the less you believe in a God, the more barbaric and savage a society is. We've seen this many times now within modern history. I mean, just history in general, but even to this day. So it's like you had to be a raging retard. Man, I was really talking about this. Here, let's just skip ahead a little bit. What the frick? Man, I was a chatty Cathy, wasn't I? No, actually, let me skip ahead in this footage for you. Or actually, I'm gonna rewind real quick. Look at this. Bro, I was sitting around and I was just talking. I was talking like a chatty Cathy. It took me forever to get into this game. By the way, you wanna know what my name was? My legendary name in this game, Avowed, is? My name is Sir, because it wasn't enough to be a lord. I'm a gentleman. So I had to name myself Sir Fagginbum. Yes, I'm a gentleman. My name is Sir Fagginbum. Anyways, moving on. So, back to where I was. Yeah, so anyways, so as I was talking, we're talking about, though, after playing Avowed, it just made me realize like how much the bar has dropped, because I enjoyed my time with this game. And that's just because it just got basic game design right. You know, just having interesting secrets, interesting level scaling. It's not linear, it's multi-linear. Multiple paths that you can take. Many of those multiple paths, they end up in the same location. You know, you can either hop up to a location or you can climb a ladder and then leap across a gap, right? And it goes to the same place, but it's just interesting. It's this weird idea where it's like going through the levels, you have a choice about where you're going to go. And your choices, they're very minimal, but it's just like you're not being told how to get there. So it's interesting because it's like you have a freedom in the multi-linear design of the game. It's very interesting how they did this. And I appreciate that, but it's like, how the frick do games not understand this? Seriously, I mean, it's like, do game developers not play games? Maybe that's what it is. I have no idea what's going on, bro. But it's like, whatever it is, this is not difficult to do. But this game is one of the few games that actually does it. So this game does a good job at just being good. With, you know, the combat's fine. The staggering feels good from a heavy weapon. You do get a lot of stagger attacks in with a heavy weapon, depending on the enemy. I like that. I like the mechanics in the game. But it's like, these are mechanics. How the frick have these mechanics not been in more of our games? That's number one. And they have been in other good games, but it's just like, these are mechanics that's like, this should be common sense. If you played video games, you largely know that this should be in your design. So it's effectively made, okay? They made decent systems, you know, the blocking system's fine. I don't know if there's a parry system, I can't tell yet. Whatever. You know, the bow, honestly, it's not really gratifying to use, but it's a bow and it works, okay? This game's just average. Let's just face it. And this is what average should be. Now, it doesn't do a great job at being average. Let's just be honest about that. The story's trash. This is generic fantasy. And we're gonna get back to the larger conversation about this, but you know, this all ties in with Avowed. The game has a very generic fantasy storyline and characters and backstory to the world. We've seen this happen. Again, Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. Forspoken, we go Immortals of Avium, and then there's a bunch of games, Atlas Fallen, there's another one. There are tons of games I played last year that are literally the same thing. The backstory, right? The foreground to the world before you actually get into the game. It's all the same thing, but it just has ESG sprinkled and littered all throughout the world. And you're supposed to just accept it and love it and be like, wow, this is so much fun, and I guess I love this game so much, whatever. But that's what this game is. And by the way, I've not used the flintlock in this game. I don't care. So that's what this game is. It's just, it's painfully boring. I'm just gonna say that. The characters are boring. The characters are not interesting to listen to. I mean, there are funny lines spoken in the game, and you are given options to be a little bit sassy. But it's not that interesting. What people have to say back to you is not interesting. Like, every time I found myself laughing when playing Avowed, for instance, I always found myself laughing at the dialogue, mostly because this game's trying to take itself seriously. And then there's this weird, like, maybe tongue-in-cheek, you can't really tell. But it's like, there's just this, like, low-key humorous dialogue that this game has, and just makes you laugh because of how much this game is trying to take itself serious. That's the majority of the reason why I ever laugh. It's this weird, like, this pseudo parody that this game is in its dialogue, and then we meet this woman dressed like a man, and then we see a man dressed like a woman. Oh, isn't that interesting? Why does a man have cleavage? Oh, I remember in older games, sexy women, like, I think her name was Morgan in Dragon Age Inquisition. She had no breast size. She had larger breasts in the previous games. What the frick? Anyway, so Morgan, as I remember, she had outfits like this. And other hot women in games like Witcher, they had outfits like this dude. And we gave a dude a freaking outfit of a woman. And then we put a woman with no breasts. Yeah, that's normal. We put her in this freaking breastplate armor. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Anyways, let's just get back to what I'm saying. I mean, not really. I mean, this video in part is kind of me talking about what are my impressions so far before I possibly make a review on the game. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't care. So let's just keep on going. Whatever. I don't care. So, yeah, see, like, it is oh man, I guess the dialogue options are interesting. It's just like, see, this is actually, I'm getting deja vu now. Right here in my playthrough, I was literally sitting there and I was like, you know what? I have to say this. You have all these dialogue options when you're playing the game. What do those dialogue options even matter for when the people you're talking to are not interesting to speak to? If they don't have anything interesting to say in response to you and what you have to say, right? If I'm sassy with a character and then they have something funny to say and maybe they throw a silent threat my way or something like that, again, the humor of this game, because I laughed during my playthrough, the little I've done so far, I laughed a little bit playing this game. The only reason I laughed a couple of times, one more time, I'm going to say this, the only reason I laughed was because this game takes itself so serious, and then I'm saying things that aren't so serious, or it's kind of a parody on the situation. I'm going to be honest. I mean, if your game's funny because people like me are taking the dialogue lines as like low-key parody, you're not funny. You're not funny. What you made is the joke. And so like this story is largely a joke of itself. And like, okay, yeah, you can have humorous chuckles and try to be facetious with your dialogue in the game. They kind of give you options for that, or at least you can feel that way with the dialogue. Maybe they didn't intend it that way. I don't know. But you're kind of stuck here playing a game where the characters and their dialogue is not impressive. It's not interesting. Where the story's going is not impressive. It's not interesting. I have all these dialogue options, and I don't care, and I'm not, quite frankly, interested in what anyone has to think or say in the game. And this is the thing I was saying during this playthrough as well, is that you play games like Uncharted. You play games like, oh shoot, I gave a bunch of examples. I mean, okay, let's use movies as an example. Look at Star Wars, look at Lord of the Rings. Okay, Gandalf, you meet him rather quickly in Lord of the Rings, both the books and also the movie, okay? You meet Gandalf rather soon. He's an interesting character with interesting things to say. To Frodo, who's a largely interesting character, even though, yeah, I mean, he's largely interesting. He's not crazy, but whatever. Nathan Drake is an interesting character in Uncharted. And then you meet Sully. And Sully's an interesting kind of like low-key, and obviously this is what he's supposed to be, but, he has this interesting fatherly, a surrogate father kind of persona. But also he's like a man's man, all these things. There's interesting aspects to Sully's character in Uncharted. Then you've got, I'm thinking of another game right now. Shoot. I mean, even Alfred, let's just be honest, Alfred's an interesting character to Batman in the Batman games. Well, I mean, specifically, I'm thinking Batman Arkham Knight. But like, you think of a lot of games and you have interesting people, interesting characters because they have interesting personas. Oh yeah, and then Star Wars, we got Luke, who honestly, Luke Skywalker is not that interesting, but then we have Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is an interesting character when you meet him in Star Wars. And then of course, before those guys, you start off the story meeting Darth Vader, who's the I'm just gonna freaking say it. He is the coolest freaking villain of all time in freaking movies. Let's just face it, Darth Vader's cool. There's a reason why he's so iconic, because he's cool. You start off a story, and if you have great characters from the rip, you're going to glob onto that story, glob onto the characters. That's what's going to happen. Even you can say Vesemir with Witcher, Geralt in The Witcher 3. You could even say that Vesemir is a pretty interesting well, okay, I mean, Witcher 3 actually specifically starts with a hot chick naked in a, I think in a steaming hot tub. No, that's Geralt. No, but no. Yennefer is sitting in a chair naked, and you're like, dang, what's up? And it's just interesting. It's an interesting persona, a sexy woman, okay? That's a woman's personality, her sexuality. And yeah, Yennefer has a very interesting personality when none of her clothing's on. But that's the point, though. These people are far more interesting. When we talk about good characters, when you start this game, you meet the blue dude, totally boring character, and that's what we have for a story in this game. So right now, I don't really care exactly what people are saying about it, but I know how I am responding to the game, and I do know what other people have said, so I guess I'll make mention of it. But I know how I experienced the game, and this is the thing. This game is just painfully average, and it does a good job at being good, at being average with the gameplay. The story's dog trash, the dialogue is dog trash, everything's just horribly done with the story and all that. It's not, I mean, the level design, I do like the level design in this game. I like the aesthetic kind of appeal of the world and of the game. The architecture is beautiful. See, I was looking at that. So that right there, that lights up, right? When you unlock a fast travel location. I like that. It feels immersive. It just sort of happens spontaneously. Unlocking other fast travel locations. I like that. So like there's things that they do right where, you know, I've said this many times. In a game, the more dynamic and the more immersive everything you do is in the game world, the better every part of a game feels. So if me just walking around and then a random blazer, or I think that's a brazier, a random brazier lights up because I unlocked a fast travel location, then that right there is an immersive way of making your fast travel mechanic feel living and breathing and a part of the world that you're playing in. So that's a great way of bringing fast travel mechanics into a game and making it feel alive. And you know, you have other games, they do a good job with this, like, and I've said this before, like whenever you open up your menu screen, it should feel really immersive. In this game, it's not so much, but like, you know, and you don't have to be crazy with menu screens. You really don't, but like the more immersive it feels, the better. So like a great example is Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game does a great job where I believe you're looking at materia, and you're looking at an orbit surrounding the materia. So there's little nodes on the orbit on the materia, and every orb on the ring, every node on the ring that orbits the materia, they all light up until, and then the whole materia changes color as you're leveling up all the nodes in that orbit, right? That's what I remember. It's been a little while, but I remember liking that upgrade system, that upgrade menu, because it's immersive, right? It's a part of the game world that you, as I understand it, so I'm just going to say this, and I don't care if it's real, honestly, just screw it. You're looking at materia, and then, right, every node that orbits it like a planet, every node that's orbiting it in a ring, you level it up, and it shines it up more and more, or like, I think the ring first, and then it's the materia last, as you're leveling it up. And that is immersive. It's a part of the game world. It's a part of the mechanics. And any time in a game, you have this way of having mechanics, and it feels like it's a part of the game world. That is the best way. I mean, like, For instance, Skyrim honestly does a great job. When you're crafting items in Skyrim, you're actually walking up to whatever it is, the anvil or whatever, and then there's an animation playing as you're going through the menu building stuff. And it's just stuff like that, like bringing you into that world and making the menus feel more alive as you're playing through. You want to have this feeling as you're going through the game. So anyways, this game has good things about it and positive aspects, but here's the problem that we're getting to. And this is what I realize with a lot of games. This game feels like, in a lot of ways, right? This feels like the gameplay is a discount Skyrim. That's number one. This game is so derivative of so many things that have come before. By the way, the people that you can make in this game are ugly. Just have to say that first and foremost. And also, another thing I don't like is the multiculturalism of this world. You need to feel like there's an actual culture, an actual real-life civilization tethering from our reality to something that is fantastical. That's why Hogwarts, with Harry Potter, Hogwarts worked so well, because it's basically you're in England and imagine Oxford University, but magical. That's what it is. And that's the idea it's playing to. So whenever you bring ideas from your grounded, based reality that you live within and you make them fantastical, every great piece of fiction has a premise within reality. So when you operate off of that premise of reality, that's where great fiction is made. And you make that premise, you make it fantastical, you make it something that is otherworldly. And this is with anything. And so when we look at this game, I mean, for one, they do the whole pronouns nonsense, which no one's going to get immersed into your world just off the rip because of that. You're a freaking retard putting that into your game. Outside of that, because no one, by the way, wants the freaking LGBT mafia a part of their games and a part of their real life existence. No one wants that. Get them out immediately. But we're looking at the entire construction of this world. And another thing I was noticing is that this game also just feels like games like Doom, games like Wolfenstein. It just feels like these games where with the level design and the combat design, you have a small selection of weapons to use. You go through, you platform through the level, you're jumping on platforms, you're scaling areas, and I do like the challenges and the mysteries. Like right here, it's difficult to get inside to find the treasure chest. I have to do a little bit of platforming to figure it out. And there's multiple ways to platform to the top, but it doesn't actually lead you to your way inside. You have to figure it out. So I like that. It's a platforming puzzle, and I enjoy that aspect. Now, the thing is, though, is like when you look at this game is just painfully average. It doesn't, and I find it so sad when we're looking at what modern games have now become. Modern games, the bar and the standard has dropped so low that now a game like this is tolerable for someone like me, may be impressive to people that have no standards, and now we're looking at a game, it does the bare minimum, and that's the problem here. Again, it does things that we've seen in so many other games. This game's like Wolfenstein, this game's like Doom, where you only have a small selection of weapons, you use those, you platform through the level, you fight select enemies with, slightly different mechanics, and you fight these enemies, you kill them, and then, and that's it. And then it has RPG mechanics where you get gear and all that, but like, again, we played so many other games like this, and this game's just derivative of those games. This game offers nothing truly unique or special. And that's the problem here, is that this game literally is just, it's a painfully average game, soulless game, boring characters, boring worlds. And that's the biggest thing here. I mean, like, when I was playing through the entirety of this game so far, I was like, dude, this is so soulless. And I'm noticing as we've kind of exited this age, this era of woke games, we're not really exiting it, not yet, but I'm noticing that as we've been developing past it, we're getting more woke, boring games. They're just soulless. They're not really pushing any exact politics explicitly. It's very implicit to the world. It's very passive and silent. It's covert. It's not overt. It's not expressive all the time. So we're experiencing a world in a game and a fantasy that the wokeness is now implicit, not explicit, and they're doing a lot of things that we've seen done in other games that did it better. And again, this game, like the combat is really not that special. There's other games, honestly, they've done it better. And I've already given mention to those games. And this game's basically those other games. You know, this is discount Skyrim, discount Wolfenstein. This game has less content than those games, right? This game has less spells, for instance, at least starting out, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon. This game so far has less spells to interact with than Skyrim. And this is what amazes me, is that the industry has gone for so long as it is, but it hasn't developed past so many games from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's what's amazing, is that you have so many developers that are really pushing their limits, and now it really just feels like we're making a lot of generic content here. And I mean, there's so many games like this. Now, again, I really do appreciate elements to this game. I do. And by the way, it pretty much feels necessary to play with a wand in this game. I'm just gonna face it. I feel like using sorcery is definitely required, but I don't know about that. Well, I mean, low-key it is, but, you know, I mean, I guess you can play the game without it. It's just that it seems like they really made this game for you to use the wand. But anyways, I do love, again, one more time, I love the level design. I love the mission design. I love the architecture of the world. It's very eye-catching. It's beautiful. The textures are great. The dirt, everything. You feel like you're in a scenic location. Now, does everything look a little bit too clean? A little bit. It looks slightly grimy, but it's like clean, grimy. It's weird. And that's the thing with a lot of these Unreal Engine 5 games, but whatever. The game's beautiful, the lighting's beautiful, everything's well done there. So, you know, it's so interesting to me just so far playing this game and just looking at the gaming industry right now. I'm just noticing more and more of these soulless, and there we go. I finally found my way inside, and there's a lot of gear in here. You do get a spear, by the way. There is also a spear in this game. But so anyways, just with everything I'm talking about here, I'm just noticing, and it's very interesting, you know, for one, it's interesting how people want to excuse wokeness in games if they're enjoying the game that they're playing. So let's get this right. You appreciate, or you like, or you can tolerate blatant propaganda. That's what this is. You will tolerate blatant propaganda designed to manipulate your mind plus the minds of the upcoming generation because you find the game enjoyable. And when you have these people and they sit there and they say that wokeness doesn't matter, for one, you're a clown. For two, you're being disingenuous. And apparently you are complicit, and also you are tolerant of blatant propaganda, which is being funded by your taxpayer dollars. Let's just be clear about that. You know, the whole thing with USAID and all the things that we're learning about that, all the millions of dollars that have been given to, you know, Anita Sarkeesian, by the way, got $550,000 from a mystery entity that, you know, she got a lot of funding. Interesting how that happened. Anyways, to push her feminist narrative, which ultimately seeped all throughout gaming and screwed up beautiful women in gaming and made our games lame and gay. But, you know, outside of that, you know, we got all of our money getting thrown to countries like Brazil and Venezuela and condoms for Afghanistan because, you know, forcible copulation. And then money being sent everywhere. And then also money being sent by Diageo and Garm, that whole orchestra of other ESG companies. They're also throwing money at Africa to help Africans make small businesses. It's so amazing how they're throwing money to other countries to make those citizens and make those people, to make them maybe have a better way of life. Kind of, not really. And also you ask yourself, how the frick is it this expensive? Also, as I remember, there's also, I think it was $11 million or more, I forget right now. Dude, there's so much money that was thrown all over the place. I can't even believe this. But you know, there was also money, I think, I forget which country it was, but to teach about transgenderism and the LGBT nonsense in other countries. And I think that cost $11 million, which it's like, why is this so expensive? How is it so expensive to teach people about the freaking gays? And by the way, this is money laundering, absolutely. Who needs to learn about the gays? No, the Afghanis, they've got a better idea, throw them off the roof. But here we are. Okay, whatever. But, you know, so it's interesting to me because it's like, I'm looking right now at gaming, and I'm noticing how people, because the bar has been dropped so low, and because games have been so bad for so long, we're now looking at a painfully average game like this that has a very unimpressive storyline, unimpressive characters. It's boring. This is somehow worth $70? Are you kidding me? Okay. It's painfully average, painfully soulless, painfully boring. The world is well made and beautiful, but it's like, is that enough? Like, this game is basically a better piece of art than it is an actual functional product. Let's just face it. And again, the combat and the gameplay is passable. It's just that, are you really going to sit down and spend money for this experience? Can you really not find better things to do than to play through, for one, propaganda, but then for two, just a painfully average game? Is this really worth your time? Your money? You know, there was a time where people were actually trying to make the best of the best. The best games in, you know, there was a lot of trashy games too, but there was a lot of games trying to be really good. You know, I think about games like, I mean, honestly, I do enjoy the 2013 Lara Croft Tomb Raider game. That was a good one. The reboot games, specifically the first one, was pretty good and I enjoyed it. And I didn't enjoy how they were trying to uglify Lara every game, low-key. I mean, okay, right, what they did in the second game, they reduced her breast size, but then they made her face more attractive. That was weird. So make her breasts worse. Not that much worse, but, you know, worse. And then make her face hotter. Interesting. But, anyway, it's just so interesting to look at all this. And right now what I'm noticing is how so many people are willing to excuse average products now today. Understand that there were so many games that were coming out. Games like Metal Gear Solid 5. Games like Final Fantasy 15. Games like Witcher 3. Games like Dragon Age Inquisition, which have more content, more going on. They're pushing harder on the mechanics and making sure that the game offers a lot on multiple levels. And this game is just an average game, and that's it. And people right now, they're willing and wishing to praise this game. Well, why? You know, it used to be that these games that were really good that I just labeled off, they would come out and people would be like, it's not good enough. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. Like, people used to have these insane expectations of games and sit there and say that games like Metal Gear Solid 5 weren't good enough, and say games like Final Fantasy 15 were not good enough. And yet, those games did so many things well, and they did them right, especially at that point in time in the gaming industry, and also with the budgets of those games, and also with the technology that they had available. You know, a lot of games, they had a lot of limitations, and that's why a lot of games came out as disappointments, by the way. You know, No Man's Sky, Watch Dogs, The Division. There's a bunch of games that came out with a minutia of their content because, as far as I understand, there were so many limitations with hardware, right? You're trying to make a game and you're trying to make all these variables, and then you realize that your game can't handle it, so then you have to start cutting content. after you spend a couple of hours, maybe weeks, trying to deal with bugs because, you know, the GPU or the memory can't handle it. And now we have stronger hardware. And that stronger hardware, now our games can handle so much more. And it makes games easier to make. You know, we have Unreal Engine 5 and all these different things that just makes game design easier, right? Because a lot of games, they also had to make their own engines, like Metal Gear 5 and also Final Fantasy 15. You know, so just games are so much easier to make now. So the bar, it's so interesting because the bar has been lowered and now games are easier to make. So doing what this game has done is really not that impressive, let's just face it. But okay, outside of that, this game, what it does do right, for one, is common sense. If you understand game design and how games should be made, this is like gaming design 101, what this game does right. And it just amazes me that, for one, so many developers don't understand how to make a good game. And then for two, you know, this game is just painfully average. And it's crazy that a painfully average game now is to be regaled as an amazing product that like, oh wow, this is worth your money, this should be worshipped, this should be praised, this is game of the year, right? Now, interestingly, I don't see anyone saying that this is game of the year, even though I saw a bunch of people say that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was game of the year, and that was clearly not. But regardless, I don't know, the shills, they always say whatever they want, so whatever, screw them, they're shills. But it's interesting because right now what we're seeing in the gaming industry is that games have been pillaged, many franchises have been killed for the sake of ESG, many incompetent people have been hired for a long time. And now we're at a point where our games have been so incompetent for so long that now a game like this is impressive to people, including me, because of how bad games have been for a while. Now again, I appreciate many game design aspects of this game, but it's not impressive, and this should not be impressive. So many games that came out, again, one last time, that came out 10, 15, 20 years ago now, so many of those games were judged harshly when they delivered so much, and they were dealing with more limitations than the games today. I want that to rest within you. Think about the fact that so many games now are so much easier to make now. We don't have technical limitations like we used to. And so now we have these games that are just effectively, they're easy to make, and now people want to worship and praise games that are much easier to make now, and they're putting in a minutia of the effort. And you know, by the way, I could end it there, but I will say this too. These games now take a minutia of the effort, and you can tell. You know, this game does feel, when you're going through the open world, even though it feels serene and peaceful and it's beautiful to look at, you're going through the open world, and something that I notice as I'm playing is that it feels empty. You don't see a lot of fauna. The world doesn't really feel exactly alive. It doesn't feel dead, but it feels like the game, it just feels like they got the bare minimum product out. That's honestly what it just feels like. It does feel very empty. It feels soulless, as I said. Just so many, the writing, the dialogue, the story, the what is it? The the level design is good. That's the most living and breathing aspect of the game. But then, you know, the atmosphere of the world doesn't feel alive. It just doesn't. You know, the people, they don't feel uncanny or just weird and out of place, but, you know, they're just there. Again, they're just soulless husks. I mean, okay, I guess they're leftist, but still, they're soulless husks. You know, either a leftist is soulless because they're so politically correct, you can't stand them, or they're such an activist, such a propagandist, they're just completely unbearable and annoying, and you can't stand talking to them. It's one or the other thing. So regardless, man, you know, it's just, this game's not impressive, it's passable, and it's so sad because it's like, this game, what I'm realizing is that this is the best of the worst that's come out within the last, let's just say, like 5 or even 10 years. I mean, so many bad games have come out. Games are just not compelling. This is the best of the worst games that we've gotten. You know, if this game came out back when people had higher expectations and also higher IQs, then people would be trashing on this game and be like, oh, this element, you know, it's soulless here, and they barely developed and designed this aspect of the game and this system of the game. You understand that basically 15 years ago, people would be saying that this crafting system doesn't go far enough, or it's not very in-depth, or it's just kind of there, it's tacked on to the game. Like, I could put myself into the shoes of people who would nitpick this game. And this is what gaming used to be, is that we used to nitpick them, and now, just getting the bare minimum product, now we're just like, oh, this is great, super impressive. No, it's not. You know, the fact that people just don't care anymore, that we're not getting good stories anymore. Remember Heavy Rain? Remember that great story? Remember the first Last of Us game? Remember the Uncharted games, specifically 1 to 3? Remember Metal Gear? And yes, from 1 to 5, those were all great games. I mean, by the way, I barely have any experience with the games before 5. I barely know much about them, but what I have seen, good stuff. But I mean, just remember how many games were compelling. Remember how many games used to captivate you. And now today, even Dragon Age Inquisition, it was a proto-woke game, mostly with the casting of the characters, but the writing and the story was compelling. Now today, we don't get such a thing. So guys, before we're out of here, remember this. It is my sole purpose to get every single one of you onto my books. I have written my work, and I'm continuing to make more other books. And by the way, if you're wondering which book to pick up, I mean, you could ask me, but honestly, dude, just pick up any of them. They're all good. But remember that I am doing this channel and I'm doing these videos, and if you appreciate what I'm doing here and you want to support me, literally help me help you. That's all I ask. Pick up my books and share with me your thoughts. So remember, Charles Arlington on Amazon. The link is down in the description. Check out my work. I am making the stories that should be in our games. And it disappoints me that people like me honestly are not crafting the stories for these games, because, you know, like, my stories actually have characters. My stories actually have proper development of a narrative, and it actually lands home with you by the time that you get to the ending, with a potential for a sequel and all that stuff. It doesn't matter. You want proper storytelling? Do you miss great stories? Do you miss, you know, just think of any great storyteller that we've had in the past. Do you want something that's actually creative and is not tropey and doesn't have a bunch of recycled, rehashed nonsense? Then pick up my stuff. It's all I ask. You know, I do this literally for you guys. I make my work for you guys. So all I ask, help me help you, and just pick up any of my books. And again, you can ask me which ones to start off with if you have like any specific desires in a story, because my my books so far, you know, some of them have different themes. So I mean, depending on what maybe you're looking for, but you know, they're all made for adult content. Or, well, not really intentionally, but you know, I'm not afraid to make adult stories or mature content. You know, I allow the story to tell itself, and so, you know, the maturity follows the storyline is effectively what I mean by what I'm saying. So, anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video. You can definitely check out here around the end of the video. You can check out in the playlist. You can see the rest of my gaming topic videos where we talk about other topics within gaming and other aspects of gaming. But anyways, man, we're out of here. And one last thing, I do look forward to hearing from you guys. Please tell me what you think once you're done with my books. Do tell me what you think. I do look forward anytime, because I make these books for you. So I do look forward to hearing from you guys, my audience, what you have to say about my work. just simply because I made it for you, and I want you to have good stuff out there. No one else knows how to make a proper story, so knowing how it lands with you, you can share it within 1 sentence, 2 sentence, or a paragraph. I don't care, but you know, just hearing your thoughts, you know, it's just nice to hear. But anyways, it's up to you though. It's elective. Don't care. Anyways, guys, I will see you. I might make a follow-up video to this game. Maybe, I don't know yet. I'm going to be playing more of Avowed, and we'll see what my thoughts are by that point in time.